You are listening to a podcast of the Fahey and Shivari Show, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Thursdays, only on SportsTownChicago.com.
For Baez, 21 years old, 6 feet, 190 pounds. Swing and a miss. Going up and in with some heat. And he hits a ground ball that's cut off by the Gold Glover Arenado, and he throws to first in time. He was a little late on that fastball, a little up in the zone, and is 0 for 3 to start his career. Driven deep to right and caught. Rough sometimes to keep those hands back. Swing and a miss.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
High and deep, right center field. Javier Baez with a home run. His first major league hit into the bullpen. Whoa, baby.
We made it.
Don't you just love this music? It's that time of the show again. Welcome back into the Fahey and Shivari Show here on SportsTownChicago.com. Len Casper of Cubs TV on the call. I was happy to put that little nice montage together in the debut of Javier Baez back on Tuesday night. And joining us right now to talk about Javier Baez right now on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting Hotline is our freelance writer and our guy, Gabe Salgado. You guys can follow Gabe on Twitter at GabeSalgado82. Good afternoon, Gabe. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing just fine, thank you. So I want to get your first impression. We'll get to the at-bat specifically of Jose Abreu and, wrapping up his minor league stint coming into the Cubs in just a second. But I want to get your overall thoughts on how that, as you just heard the clips there, of how Javier Baez looked in his first appearance with the Cubs back on Tuesday.
I really hope that, the rabid group of Cubs fans really, doesn't read too much into the fact that he's gone 1 for 10 in his first 2 Major League games. But, that this first Major League hit couldn't have come at a better time on Tuesday night. They went extra innings and, obviously they needed something to put them over the top to win, and they got that. But, then after that, Baez ended up going 0 for 4, if I remember correctly, last night. So, I know the Cubs fans are excited for him to be here, and they're waiting for him to be combined with all the other prospects, and hopefully get this team back to glory. But I think what we need to do is just let him ease into the situation and not put too much pressure on him.
In the short sample size that we have to see Javier Baez, do you have any critiques on his swing being a little bit too long right now and needs to be shortened up before he can really come into his own as a major leaguer?
I think he'll fix that over time. I mean, obviously, he comes in and obviously he wants to get on base. He wants to hit that ball as hard and as far as he can because, he was used to doing that in the minor leagues. So I think that will eventually develop over time. Right now, he's just happy to be here and he's just trying to earn his money.
Looking at Javier Baez and how he fits in defensively with this team, obviously we saw earlier before Javier Baez was called up that the Cubs put Darwin Barney on assignment. He's now with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Baez has been batting second in the lineup the last couple games. Does it seem like Baez will fit in as the second guy in the batting rotation for right now, Gabe, and maybe going forward when the other prospects come up?
I think so. He's already proven that, he can handle it. He can handle it, and he's got the speed, and, obviously, you want your second baseman to have some speed. So I think he'll slowly adjust into that spot. And, maybe, if he can, start putting up more power numbers, maybe they can move him up to third in the order as well. I mean, I think Baez is a guy that you could really bat him anywhere, but I think his best spot will be number 2.
I want to follow up with what you just said there about his power and his home run hitting ability. It makes it easy to forget about the other previous 5 at bats he had in his debut with the home run he had in the 12th inning on Tuesday night. With that being said, though, Gabe, you mentioned that he is a tremendous power hitter. When he's clicking on all cylinders and he's hitting the ball off like there's no tomorrow and hitting it a bajillion feet for what it looks like on TV. So in that aspect, Gabe, is it possible then to maybe put Baez, if he keeps the power ability up for the seasons to come, to maybe put him in the 3 spot and maybe bump Anthony Rizzo down to number 4 in the batting order?
That definitely wouldn't surprise me if that were to happen at some point down the line. I mean, you take a look at the numbers that Baez put up in the minor leagues throughout his career so far. He's proven that he can hit the long ball. He's proven that he can get you a good amount of RBIs. So it's definitely something that the Cubs should look into. Not now. Let Baez ease into the league at the number 2 spot, but somewhere down the line, it's definitely something they should consider.
Freelance writer Gabe Salgado with us here on the Fahey and Shivari Show here on SportsTownChicago.com. He joins us on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting hotline. If interested in a current broadcasting, head on over to beonair.com. We only have 50 more games left of this Cubs season, Gabe, and it's going to be just a small sample size compared to what a full regular season would be to see Javier Baez and how he develops with the big league players right now on the squad with the Cubs. Do you set any expectations for Javier Baez for these next 50 games, or do you just let him play these next 50 games out and evaluate him at the end of the season?
Let him play and evaluate him at the end of the season, and then, hopefully you could pair up a couple more prospects with him for 2015, and, that the big picture that Theo Epstein has been talking about the last couple of years hopefully can finally start coming to fruition. So right now, just let him play and, let him show everybody what he's got.
Do you think the reception to the Wrigley Field crowd of having Baez now in the lineup, do you think that's going to be a distraction to Javier as he goes along and tries to at least get through this weekend?
It could be. Hopefully, the Cubs are coming home Friday. Hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction as the Bears are playing Friday, so maybe that'll take some of the pressure off. Oh, excuse me, I had to sneeze there for a minute. Hopefully that'll take some of the pressure off of them with the Bears being in town. That'll take away some of the media coverage, but hopefully the Cubs fans will just let them ease into the surroundings.
You talk about easing Baez, into the surroundings of it, and I think maybe another aspect to keep in mind here is Ricky Renteria, the new Cubs manager for this season, and not sure how long we're going to have Rick Renteria along as a Cubs manager. Is Rick Renteria the right guy for Jose Abreu? We see that when he came in, we thought to ourselves maybe he's going to be a good fit for Starlin Castro to take under his wing and maybe develop him and become a better ball player. Could we see the same kind of development here with Javier Baez and Rick Renteria?
Well, you take a look at Castro, he's definitely improved compared to last year where he struggled greatly. Castro's not putting up, too great of numbers, but he's definitely improved from last year, so maybe that could be the case. And, obviously Renteria knows how to relate to players to some degree, so it'll be interesting to see, how he develops a relationship with Baez. And I definitely think that, if the Cubs are going to stick to this rebuilding plan and bring these guys along, I think it'll be in their best interest for now to see how the relationship between Renteria and Baez develops.
Baez is more of a power hitter, especially for a middle infielder. You kind of saw that come into play in this one hit that he has the home run the other night in Colorado. Granted, it's Colorado. It's kind of the thinner air. The ball travels a little bit more. Now he comes back to Wrigley, where if the wind is blowing out, that might assist him. Do you think there's a chance that before the season's over, he's going to turn a little bit more into a contact hitter, or maybe a hitter more for average, more so than the power stroke, home run hitting type of infielder?
Only if the team asks him to change the way he approaches his swing, could that happen? But I think, if he can put up the power numbers, they'll let him do that. They'll let him live up to the hype and, show this is why he was drafted and this is why, they waited for so long to bring him up. So I think they'll let him, stick to what he's doing unless they absolutely ask him to make any drastic changes.
He's through 2 games right now, Gabe. He's got 1 home run so far. Over-under, Gabe, on 15 home runs for Javier Baez to finish this season?
I'm going to go ahead and say, even. That sounds like a reasonable number, before the end of the season, especially since there's only so many games left to play. So I think that sounds like a reasonable number, and he could probably reach that by season's end.
Now, how does this affect Alcantara? I know that he was already the second baseman before Baez, but do you think this will have any effect on Alcantara moving out to center field, or do you think that's the logical move?
Well, they had said they wanted to get him more games in center field, so that definitely sounds like something reasonable. God forbid Baez gets injured, then maybe Alcantara will move back to second base, but, as for right now, that seems like the permanent solution.
I guess I just asked because, there's always been kind of a talk of Baez could play short if Castro goes down, or if they trade Castro. Baez could play third if Bryant isn't a viable option there. But it seems like Baez is going to play second. I just didn't know if you had any thoughts about if there'd be any movement to give Alcantara a little bit more time at the end of season to stay at second base. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Baez maybe possibly playing a different position.
Well, once they expand the roster to 40 in September, you could probably see Baez move around a little bit and show off his flexibility. But I think right now, second base is where he's going to stay.
Freelance writer Gabe Salgado has been with us here on the Fahey and Chavarri Show talking about the Cubs and Javier Baez. Gabe, we always appreciate you dropping on the show. We'll talk with you next week, man. As always, have a great day.
All right, guys. You too. Take care.
That I dropped the wrong call there. See, clearly, I am out of practice here on the board. But yeah, that's Gabe Salgado, freelance writer. You can find him at Gabe Salgado82 on Twitter. Good stuff as always covering the hot topics of the moment. And I liked his opinion there. I mean, I think he's kind of taking the approach that the Cubs should be a little bit careful with Baez and just not really affect too much. Let him play his game, let him do his thing, let him enjoy his time up here because he's probably here to stay.
And to go on with your point there, Paul. As you mentioned, let him play these next 50 games. See how he does with other pitchers in the National League, because the National League is a pitchers league, and he's going to be facing aces, in the upcoming couple months the Cubs have left, and let him bring up however he got here to be the number 4 prospect in all of baseball, or whatever the ranking was according to MLB.com. Let him see how he does, and adjust at the end of the season going into spring training in March.
And for those of you just tuning in, Javier Baez will be batting second just moments from now in Denver, Colorado against the Rockies as they wrap up that series, the rubber match between the Chicago Cubs and the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, good stuff from Gabe Salgado.
Gabe Salgado is always great to talk to.
You're listening to Fahey and Chavarri on SportsTownChicago.com.